Eli Yoder said they were not even allowed to have a social security number. Someone's going to have to start fact-checking that guy, because that's simply not true. I don't know of a single Amish community that is not allowed to have a social security number because of their rules. Jag måste säga mer för gästas lever landhut. While it is true that back in the day there were some Amish people who could get away with not having a social security number, it was easier to get married or to buy land without identification back in the day. You could just tell someone your name and they took it at face value. Nowadays, it is not that easy. You need identification to get married. You need identification to buy a property. You need to pay the taxes, have a tax ID number to keep a property, or else they'll come and take it from you. So while the Amish are exempt from paying Social Security, because they don't believe in collecting it, they're not allowed to collect it. Even the ones that used to pay in back in the day were not allowed to collect. I think that's probably what he meant to say, and maybe this commenter got it confused, but it's just simply not the case that they were not allowed to have a Social Security number. His dad may not have had one, but nowadays you have to have one, even in the Amish. And the kids don't always have one assigned to them at birth, but once they get married and they're trying to buy land, they're going to have to go out and get one. Eli Yoder just never got to that stage. He was an Amish charity. He left before he got baptized or anything. After I got baptized, I went to my bishop's house, and he signed me up for my Social Security exemption because I was not a baptized member. God bless you all, and stay safe, and fact check. I will not have you slandering Eli, so asking for a fact check is hardly slander, at least not by any logical conclusions. And the reason I asked is because I've spoken to an Amish guy from Kenton, Ohio, who was older than Eli Yoder, and he had a Social Security number. I asked him, hey, I heard you guys don't have to pay income taxes over there. He laughed. He said, I wish. And I said, so you have a Social Security number? And he said, yeah. And so I've spoken to at least one person from over there, and I've spoken to some ex-Amish people about this since I made this last video. And they were like, well, maybe he moved in from somewhere else. And maybe that's the case, but that means that it's not strictly forbidden to have one. Maybe they're just discouraged from getting one. I don't know what the case is. All I know is I would like to speak to someone who was baptized into the Amish community in Kenton, Ohio. Seems like all the people that left before they were baptized. Before I was baptized, I didn't know I had a Social Security number either. You know, and I had to take it to my bishop's house after I got baptized one night, and he verified that I was now a member of church, and that is how I got exempted from paying Social Security. I was not born exempt from that. I had to become baptized to get that exemption, and the only way to get that exemption was to have a tax ID number that I could use to verify that this is me. So I would like to know, how do you verify that with John Yoder? If there's 5 John Yoders, how do you verify that? You know, do you guys even have your Social Security exemption? You just don't pay any taxes. I would really like to know some of these questions. God bless y'all. Stay safe. Fact check this guy. Looks like I messed around and got fact checked myself. Yes, I love fact. Check out this 4029 form, easily found on the internet. Name of applicant, line 1. Line 2, Social Security number, not optional, like the phone number is in line 4. Date of birth, also not optional. Down here in part 2, to be completed by authorized representative of religious group. That is where my bishop signed it that night I took it over to his house. And then this is for the Social Security Administration use only and Internal Revenue Service only. An authorized representative from each group has to sign and date that before you are Social Security exempt. So you have to have a Social Security number to become exempt to pay Social Security. These are the facts. So when I say that I have questions and things do not add up for me, you cannot just claim that you're Social Security exempt and that way you don't have a Social Security number. Because right here, it clearly states Social Security number needed to know who's exempt from paying Social Security. And you also sign a waiver stating that you will not take any benefits from Social Security. And this religious group is recognized as being in existence since 1951 continuously and providing a reasonable level of living. The reason they don't have to pay Social Security is because the community takes care of their elderly. God bless you all. Stay safe. The Amish were so great that you left. So obviously me and the Amish community had some differences of opinions when it came to the rules. That's a lot of why I ended up leaving. But just because I left does not mean I can't defend them. Doesn't mean that I have to be ashamed of where I came from, ashamed to wear these clothes. It doesn't mean that all my family and friends that stayed behind, that I have to be against them somehow, just because we have a different viewpoint on how we want to live our life. A lot of people tell me they don't like me or my content because all I ever do is defend the Amish, and they don't like that. And there's a lot of ex-Amish people that tell me that as well. But do they realize that the opposite of defending is attacking, and we shouldn't be doing that either? And anyone who wants me to do that, well, you know what? It doesn't matter what they want my content to be, because I'm not here to make content like that. I'm here to give my opinion on things. My opinion isn't always factual. It isn't always correct. But that's why it's called my opinion. You know, people can take it at face value. They can laugh at it. They can take it seriously. Or they can just forget about it by tomorrow morning if they want, you know. I have learned a lot about the Amish, and like me or not, you have to admit that I try to give an understanding viewpoint of the Amish without judging them. I never come on here and say they are great people or bad people. I just come on here and try to explain the mindset of an Amish person and maybe what makes them have rules like that. I try to figure these things out, and I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from that mentality I had back when I left the Amish. I was a kid with an 8th grade education. I didn't know all that much. My viewpoint's changed a lot since then. God bless. Eli Yoder said he is sick and tired of all the former Amish competition on social media. How do you feel? I feel like maybe he wishes he was the only former Amish person allowed on social media, because it's not a competition. It's not like we're competing to get married to the same woman. We're not competing to sell milk or shoes or eggs to the same person. It's not a sport where we're competing for a trophy or a championship. And even if it were, why wouldn't you want the competition? Competition only makes you better. But it's social media, for crying out loud. I put out a 90-second video a day normally. If that's a competition for anyone, that is not my problem. And I love all other ex-Amish content creators, all except Eli. He's had me blocked for over 2 years, obviously, since I'm his competition. But I love to see all the other ones, especially when they wear the Amish clothes. I love seeing it. Like Lavina, she's one of the only female Amish content creators that wears Amish clothes. And she's one of my favorites. And I just... you know, it's good, wholesome content. And then Eli goes around bashing them, in my opinion, and he makes it sound like the Amish in Kenton, Ohio, are tax evaders, because he says they don't pay taxes, they don't have a social security number. That makes a lot of people upset against the Amish. That is why I stand up for them. And also because I have spoken to a person from Kenton, Ohio in the past 3 months that had a social security number and paid taxes. So when I make a video saying that's simply not true, that they're not allowed to have a social security number in Kenton, I do know what I'm talking about. I've done my research. A lot of people might not have had them, but they were allowed. Oh, and I wanted to add, I got a lot of comments from people from Kenton, Ohio, who said that they agreed with Eli, they were not allowed to have social security numbers over there. But I've spoken to a person who had them, so I asked these people this question. How did that guy get a social security number then? They're like, oh, he must have moved in from somewhere else. Okay, so there you just admitted he was allowed to move in with a social security number. That means social security numbers were allowed by that logic. And no baptized person from Kenton, Ohio has yet answered my question as to, hey, this is how we file for a social security exemption. The only people that I've heard weigh in on this were people who were not baptized. And like I have stated before I got baptized, I wasn't even aware of what a social security number was, because I wasn't old enough to keep my own money, so I didn't have to pay taxes or do anything. I was living at home, being taken care of by my parents.